Welcome to the next episode of my channel where I'll be taking up the lesson Mother's Day from class 11. So the two main characters in this chapter are Mrs. Annie Pearson and Mrs. Fitzgerald. Now both of them are next door neighbors, but Annie is a pleasant and nervous looking woman in her 40s, whereas Mrs. Fitzgerald is older and heavier with a strong personality. Annie has a soft voice, whereas Mrs. Fitzgerald has a deep, throaty voice. Now, Mrs. Fitzgerald is very angry at the way Annie is treated like a servant by her family. One day she suggests that they should temporarily exchange their personalities by using a magic spell that she had learned in the East. She takes Annie's hands and speaks some magic words. A transformation takes place and the personality of Mrs. Fitzgerald shifts into the body of Annie and vice versa. Annie is scared, but Mrs. Fitzgerald assures her that the change is reversible. Mrs. Fitzgerald, now in the body of Annie, stays at Annie's house and sends Annie to her house where she could relax. So now the story which follows is what happens when the changed Mrs. Pearson, that is Mrs. Fitzgerald, encounters and treats a lesson to real Mrs. Pearson's family. Now, the first character we are introduced is Doris. Doris is the daughter. She's a beautiful girl, 20 years old, and she gets the shock of her life when she sees her otherwise docile mother smoking and playing cards alone. Doris wanted to know if her mother had, taken out, ironed and mended her yellow dress, but her mother does not respond. She asks for tea and her mother answers rudely, telling her to iron her dress herself and make tea if she wants to. Doris gets angry, but she also gets angry and she also gets a good scolding from her mother when she tells her mother that she was planning to go out that particular night with a boy called Charlie Spence. Now Doris gets very angry because her mother scolds her choice, and her mother also says that she would never on earth go out with a boy like Charlie Spence. So this makes Doris very, very sad and she starts to cry. So the next person to whom we are introduced in the lesson is Cyril, who is Annie's son. And he enters the house and asks for tea in a demanding and angry manner. Now that's the usual, behavior of these children towards their mother. And Cyril asks her if everything was all right with her. She replied that she had never felt better in her life. When Cyril inquires why she had not got the tea ready, Annie replies that she wanted a change and that's why she had not bothered to make tea. Cyril announces that he is short of time, so she should get the tea ready immediately, but still she did not move from her place. Cyril further inquires whether she had got his clothes ready, but she said no, to which he got very, very angry. He asks his mother what would happen if they all talked like that, like the way she was talking that day. Now, this is ironical because that's exactly what they did each day. Every day they used to talk to their mother in a very rude manner. But when tables have turned today, they are getting greatly affected by it. Annie coldly replies that all three of them, that's the two children and the father, okay, they would always talk to her in the same manner and that was wrong with her talking in the same tone. She says that if she does not want to do anything at home, she doesn't have to. She adds that She has become a member of the union so that she gets what she deserves, just like her children do in their office. Join a union and go on strike. So she will do whatever she wants to. Now Doris appears on the scene wearing a shoulder wrap, and Annie remarks sarcastically about her dress. An argument starts between Doris and Annie. And Doris comments that if she was looking awful, it was due to her mother only, who had made her cry. Okay, and that's when Annie inquires if any strong beer was left. Cyril is shocked to know that his mother wants to drink, and that too in midday. Both Doris and Cyril are filled with horror and shock at the sudden change of their mother's behavior. Doris thinks that she got hit on her head by something. She says that the manner in which their mother spoke hurt her the most and made her cry. Both the siblings start giggling at the thought of what would happen if their mother keeps behaving in this weird manner in front of their father as well. Now Annie remarks that it was high time they grew up and stopped giggling. Doris then asked her if they had done something wrong. Annie tells them that it is actually her children and her husband's behavior that bothered her the most. They always came, asked for something and went without bothering to know whether she wanted to go out or how she was feeling. She always does her best to keep everybody happy, but all three of them were not bothered about her. Annie also remarks that while the three of them do a job of 8 hours a day with 2 days off at the weekend, she goes on working 7 days round the clock. She warns them that on weekends she will also take the day off. Doris is really worried about what would happen if her mother takes a holiday on weekends. However, Annie assures Doris that she would do some work on Saturday and Sunday only when she is requested for it and thanked for whatever she did. She might go out for weekends also, as she was fed up of staying in the house for years. None of them has ever bothered to take her out. So I hope you have understood. This is the first part of the lesson. Thank you.